All right, welcome back to part 2 of the video episode of Big Photo Boys. We're back. If you have not listened to part 1, by all means go back and check the first part of this conversation. I think the rest of this will make a lot more sense if you do, but hopefully you get some value out of it regardless. So we're just gonna plow right ahead. Let's get back to it. What about, I'm sure there's a bunch of other questions that I'll end up coming back to, but what about we talk about if there was someone, because I have a few friends like this who are photographers, very intimidated by video, and they don't even know where to start. What advice would you give them? I can start if you want a little moment to think about it, but from what to shoot, from how to shoot, from editing software, from how to think about it, it is a lot, and it is a completely different beast. Initial thoughts, where would you start if you've never done it before?
Yeah, so if I was to start again, knowing any just basic kind of knowledge, it would be to storyboard your shots. Okay. You know, even though that's something that I still tell myself I need to do, you know. So if you know the project, even if it's an event that you have no control over how it plays out, still do a bit of research and understand what shots you need, and that way it's almost like a checklist. When I first started shooting weddings, Cara and I would write a checklist for the day where it would be, you know, just a dummies checklist, you know, bride, wide shot, mid shot, details of dress, details of rings, you know, so then at least on the day you have it on your phone, you quickly go back and check and go, oh, that shot, that's right, I need to get that shot. So if you're shooting an event, you know, you'll get the wide shot, and then you go back to your checklist or storyboard, and then just say it's a waiter bringing out a drink. You know, you make sure, oh, okay, I've checked that off. And then also that allows you to probably not overshoot as well, because I've already got that shot. I can focus on other shots. Whereas sometimes maybe you get too caught up, like you said, like we all do, just trying to, I'll get this panning transition, you know, and you've shot that same transition with probably the same waiter 20 times over the night, and you don't need that. It's like, okay, move on. But because you think it's an awesome cinematic shot or whatever, you know, you've pushed in, you know, through the sparklers or whatever, it's like you just want to take that shot because it's cool. But you've already got it. So like, just go back to your checklist and just get the other shots, I think. So that's a big thing for me. Secondly would be, I don't feel like you have to shoot log if you're just starting out, because grading, you know, there's even guys in the industry that I know that still can't grade well. So, and they've been doing it for years. So don't worry about the grading or all that stuff first up, because it's probably too much to process. So I would say don't shoot in log. You could just shoot on a picture profile that probably isn't as you know, desaturated, no contrast. With the Sony, luckily, with the newer cameras, the A7S III and FX6 and FX3, you can use S-Cinetone, which was from the Venice cameras, where it was like already a minimal kind of grade without having to go to that log. So it's great for quick turnarounds, you know, not huge files. So that's not shooting any log profile. It's like, okay, straight out of camera, it's good, we need to go, you know, whether it's for broadcast or for quick event turnarounds. You don't need to shoot log. I mean, I'll probably get crucified for saying that, but you know, 90%
talking about someone just starting.
Yeah, 90% of the projects I won't shoot log because there's no need for that. There's no need for this excessive grading or time-consuming things. So yeah, I'd say storyboard and don't shoot log.
Okay, keep it simple. I'm going to go even a little bit further back because I think you've still got your Kertogram hat on, and I think you're still you're operating at a little bit of a high level there. So I'm gonna go a little bit more grassroots, but I'm going to take your advice as well, because I think this applies across the board no matter what you're shooting. One of the first things that I would do is, depending on what camera you have, would be just go on YouTube and just type in best video settings for whatever. A6000 red weapon, whatever camera you got, because you sent me one. I haven't dialed it in, but you sent me a good one, and it was an old video. It was a couple of years old, and I think it was like an A7R or
or it's like an A7S2 or I don't know what it was.
But the logic was sound, and it was just a guy who, through his own trial and error, he had already done the work and worked out what worked well for him. And, he shows you some of his stuff and you're like, okay, this guy's pretty legit. I'd be happy to produce work at a level like that. For my stuff
to be, exactly.
Yeah, and literally all he did was run through the menus of his camera, change this setting, change this setting, change this setting. Such an easy win. No matter what camera you have, be it a DSLR, mirrorless, cine camera, I think probably the first easiest thing you could do is just type into YouTube best settings for video X camera. Easy win. Again, I suppose I'm piggybacking a little bit on what you're doing. You had just said storyboard, plan out the shots first. I would just take a little step back from that, and I would say, if you've never done it before, give yourself the time to shoot tests. But more importantly, make sure between all those tests, you actually look at the files on a big screen. Make sure you look at the files on a computer, because so often have I get a new camera and I'm like, oh, this camera does 100 frames. And I go out and I shoot a bunch of stuff in 100 frames. And I look on the computer and I'm like, oh, that's soft, or that's blown out, or actually I couldn't really get away with that, or, it doesn't look as good on the computer as it did on the back of the camera. So whether that be slow-mo or, trying out 4K, you don't even, to be honest, most projects you're not going to deliver in 4K. Well, that's probably not true, but a lot of clients want stuff for social or just online, and a lot of clients will ask for things in 1080. So it's not even that you need to shoot 4K, but it's just, I think it's so important to test out how you're going to shoot before you actually need to do it on the day, as they say, because, you also don't want to be shooting, if you, for example, if you've never shot 4K before, you need to know how big those files are going to be, because you might only have 1 or 2 memory cards, let's say.
Exactly.
And if you're going to be shooting half a day of 4K footage, at least if you do a test, you realize, okay, 1 minute is going to be, I don't know, 2 gig worth of footage. So you do the math and then you work out from there. I really like what you said about the log profiles, and I genuinely think if you don't know anything about color grading, just shoot in the standard picture profile. And I actually don't even mean turn picture profiles off. I mean just choose picture profile 1, the one with just the standard color, and just shoot that way, because I think without having to touch anything else, sure, you don't have the flexibility of some of the other profiles, but just the standard color from the camera, I think, is just going to get you the closest without having to do that much. I'm being brand agnostic, and not talking about any particular models, but just the standard picture profile. I think if you've never graded or anything
it'll
before,
get the job done.
It'll get 80% of the job done, I think, for what you need. So that's really good. One other thing that I wrote down here was I would highly recommend DaVinci Resolve. Firstly, because it's free. You don't have to pay for the whole Adobe suite. If you're a photographer, chances are you've got Photoshop and Lightroom. That's a pretty cheap outlay. It's $15 a month for both of those. But the trouble is, if you start to shoot video, if you want to get Premiere as well, that's minimum an extra $20-$25 a month just for Premiere. And then if you want to get After Effects, you probably have to get the whole suite, and then you're paying $60 plus a month. What does the whole Adobe suite cost these days?
Dude, yeah, I think I'm paying like $75 a month,
There you go.
and like it is the biggest subscription cost out of anything that I have. But yeah, because I do wear so many hats, it's like I'm using all the different all the programs, to be honest. And if I didn't have Logic, I would probably be using whatever it is, Adobe Audition.
Audition, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think DaVinci Resolve, the free version is literally 99% as good as the paid version. And if you're not, like, if you're just learning how to do video, the process is the same. You know, the editor is basically the same. And, you know, you've got your media tab, you've got your timeline, you've got your viewers. And Resolve is, you know, I rave about it. I think it's pretty amazing for what it is. It's literally got all of the Adobe programs in one. It's got it's got like 5 or 6 different tabs, media, cut, edit. It's got color. It's got a color grading.
Color.
You know, in fact, that's probably, you know, that's the best feature. DaVinci Resolve is known for its color grading, but it's also got Fairlight, which is like an audio editor built in. And then, you know, export. It's all in there, and it's free. So I think when you're learning, I think you absolutely can't go wrong, and you don't need to invest big upfront. Like, to test the waters, in my opinion, absolutely nothing better. Yeah, and then just the next thing I'd say was just learn just the basic rules of how video editors work. If you can use one, you can basically, you know, swap over to anything else. Not immediately. You have to learn the different, you know, buttons and whatever. But
interfaces,
but the way a cut works and the way, you know, to fade something in and out or slap a transition on, you know, it's the same across them all. So that's a no-brainer. The first thing though, when you get a video editing, is just learn how to set up a project and learn how to export a project, because I know that can be really overwhelming. There's like a lot of different menus, options, and
for
whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think if you skip that step, it makes everything else more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with Premiere, they've recently just done a new software upgrade, and I exported something last night, and it looked totally different. Just the interface. So they've not dumbed it down, but it looks a little bit more garage bandy, I guess, with just how easy it looks now. It doesn't look as rigid and harsh. I think it just looks a bit softer, you know. But yeah, so I was like, okay, where is everything? But it's all there.
Yeah. Okay. It just doesn't look like a
It doesn't
you don't
look
have
the
to be
same
a
as what
software
it did.
engineer to decode it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas you used to have to. It was very you didn't know really what to click. But actually, in the last couple of weeks, I actually used DaVinci because I downloaded some like film emulation packs and stuff like that. And man, for the life of me, I just couldn't get it working. It was a lot more difficult than I thought. So ended up just taking those packs and then just using them in Premiere anyway.
And they work the same?
Yeah, they work the same because they're
a
cube file or you know, they're an overlay or something like that.
Yeah, okay, cool.
But cool. Yeah, I struggled with DaVinci, and I'm so keen to get my head around it because I want to be a great colorist eventually. But to be able to do that, you know, I've got to learn how to use DaVinci, which I feel like it's going to be a longer process than I originally thought, just because of the way, I guess, the interface is. It's a lot different.
So I think in terms of like the editor and whatever, it's pretty standard. It's pretty easy. But when you go into the color tab in Resolve, it is really intimidating. And I'm not very good at it myself. You know, I can do all the basics, but I'm not like a, you know, gun colorist. But the difference is in the color tab, they used node-based editing. Would you have seen that, Kurt? Yeah, it's basically like instead of using like, let's say, like layers like you would in Photoshop, it's basically like a tree with all these different stems to someone who's never seen it before. And you have to it takes a while to get your head around. At the end of the day, it's just like one side is the input and one side is the output, and all of the different nodes and stems and whatever is just how, what's happening between the input and the output. It's just the way that the effects and the color grades and the masks and whatever, it's the way that they flow towards the output. I think that's the best way to describe it, but it is to look at. It is so overwhelming.
I think it's like, because I come from a music background, I remember using the fractal systems, like the I don't know, what was it? I don't even remember what it's called, FX2. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making up a number. But anyway, it was AXFX2.
AXFX,
So AXFX. So that was a node-based system as well. So you'd go into the editor on your computer, and it was the same kind of thing. So you would, put your effects where you needed to before, pre or post. And so for me, it's like, I know how that works. But then when I got into Resolve, I was like, I get how they work, and I just don't know how to apply them properly yet. So I think that's the issue. Yeah. But in a year's time, when we look back, I want to be a great colorist, because I feel like, it's like, okay, I know people I can, if Kara can edit, I just want to have, it's almost like, not that I don't want to do the work, but it's like, okay, if someone can scrap together something, I can make it look good. It's like, it's the same as Photoshop. If I have all the elements, I feel like I can make something look good. But for me to actually do the produce those elements, for me, it's like exactly. I don't want to I'm wasting my time, because I know some can do it better. And I guess that's when you understand, when you start to build a team, or to understand more about how like where your assets are. That that's all you need to focus on. You don't need to be the best all-rounder, because that kind of just doesn't get you anywhere.
We spoke about that, the social media photographer, videographer, studio assistant, TikTok reel creator, master of none.
Exactly, but that's the hard part about both doing photo and video as well, because even photo, I know a lot of people will have editors for their photos. They send it overseas or send it wherever, because it is more time efficient, or they know where their I guess where their strengths are. So with learning video, I guess within 6 months you'll find out where your strengths are, and then just, I guess, improve those.
To try and simplify the this might even bring some clarity to you, but to try and simplify color grading, again, from not a colorist background, from just someone who's used Resolve for the last few years, to try and make it as simple as possible for someone who's just learning it, I would say all you need is 2 nodes. There's one is standard. You open a clip, and there's one node there with the input and the output. On that first node, you just drop your LUT, and LUT is just like the lazy man's way to color grade. It's just a preset. So you find the LUT that you want according to the picture profile that you use or whatever. You drop a LUT on the first node, and then on that one with the LUT, there's a little thing in the menu. I forgot what it's called. It's like something key, and you can just basically turn down the opacity of the LUT, and then right click on that node, and you can add serial, which just means you're putting another node in the same line. I'll usually add serial before, so just one node with the LUT and then one node beforehand, and on the other one you just do curves or white balance or color wheels or whatever, and then that's it. Just the basic look comes from the LUT. Turn down the opacity if it's too strong, and if you need a little bit more contrast, or if you need to tweak the white balance, just do that in the other node. I hope that might sound really confusing to explain it but not show it, but if you download Resolve and you give it a go, I promise it'll make sense. 2 nodes, one for the LUT, one for the effects, and just keep it very simple. So I just want to ask a few more questions about your new camera and why you would choose to shoot something like that over something else. and then maybe we'll do a tool of the week and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
So you got the FS6. Why would you shoot that over something like your A7S III or, something like a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera or something like that? Man, what a beast.
Okay, yeah. So I've spent the last, I guess, week, figuring out. Man, I sat here for an hour the other night just reconfiguring it just to find out what would be ergonomically the best. I've bought a cage for it so I can attach stuff. But for me, the reason why I got it was because of, I guess, ergonomically it felt better. It was a bit more substantial. The auto ND, which is neutral density filter, which means it will adjust the ND filter according to the exposure. So you can set it to different metering modes, whether it's backlit or whatever. So then you've always got the right exposure.
Can I stop you just for 1 second? For an absolute novice, why is an ND filter important in video?
Because the rule for the most cinematic look would be to double your shutter, I guess, over your frame rate. So if you're shooting 25 frames, you want your shutter at 50. So for this, also, the cool thing about this is you can set your shutter angle instead of shutter speed. So if I set it to 180, which is, double or half, whatever it is, double, it will, no matter what frame rate I'm shooting, it will automatically adjust that to the right shutter speed. So say the issue with the A7S or any other camera like that would be that when I flick between 25 frames and 100 frames, I have to physically change my shutter speed to match it so that I'm not getting motion blur if it's too slow, or I'm not getting a weird
jittery
Private Ryan look, with too high shutter speeds. So traditionally when you start shooting video, you'll just crank your shutter speed up if it's too bright, like you would on a photo. But technically that's not the correct way to do it, because it affects your footage, just the way it looks. It looks a bit too like detailed, I guess, or it's just got a weird look, like, and you won't know until you literally physically do, crank up the shutter speed or have the shutter speed too low and you've got motion blur in your image.
Yeah.
So again, they can be creative techniques. Yeah. So it has that auto ND, which is sick. And then it just has a lot of other features as well. So a lot of the time, I'll have Joel to do sound, because it's so much better just having a separate sound engineer on the job, and then usually I just capture scratch audio. But with this, you actually, the hand module has a audio module on there, so you can, I think it's like 4 channels you can plug into. So if I don't have a dedicated audio guy on the job, I can just hook up, a lav, a bloody scratch mic, and then a boom, all off this one camera. So it's all, so those two things were, I guess, big selling points for me. So it was, and then also the eye only AF. So it's like those three, I guess, really sold me on it. So I can always have focus, I can always have correct exposure, and I can capture good audio without needing anyone else. But yeah, like I don't know, I fell in love with it, and it just makes me want to shoot video only because of how much of a delight using this is.
Yeah, okay.
But I've rigged it out in a couple of different ways, and a lot of people will rig it out with, external monitors, all this other stuff. But for me, once I put it all on, it was just a bit too bulky. And like, if I was standing there all day and just doing broadcast stuff or whatever, I could have it on my shoulder and then it would be a bigger rig. But for a lot of stuff that I want to do, I still need it to be portable and almost run and gun. So for me, it's still decked out, but also it's still very minimal. But yeah, I don't know. There's just so many features on this. I mean, once you use a cinema camera, it's really hard for me to pick up my A7S III now, and even though I'd kitted that out to be like a cinema rig anyway, it was like when you have the real deal, yeah, I guess there's no comparison because of the features, the ergonomics. Yeah.
So what?
And that's the thing. It's not technically any better than my A7S III because it uses the same sensor. You know, it's the same frame rates and shutter speed. Like data.
Bit rate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what? I'm actually asking this for myself.
Yeah.
Not just from a beginner's perspective. I'm asking because I don't know why I've never thought of this, but what makes a cinema camera different to a mirrorless camera?
It used to be, I think, the amount of time it could record for, right? So from a typical mirrorless, it would always cap at 29, but that's not the case anymore. So I think, the shape of the body as well, right? Because it has like proper fans in it and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's probably obviously more to it than that. But yeah, I think ergonomically, it's a different body shape. So then it can fit the fans. So then it can run all day and not overheat. Whereas, our little mirrorless cameras will overheat. If you're shooting 4K for an hour, it's done. It doesn't have that ability to shoot for 8 hours.
Yeah, it sounds like the distinction was perhaps more important a few years ago, but maybe the lines are so blurred now that it's not. I'm sure 100%. There is some technical aspect of what actually makes a cinema. Something that you would shoot Hollywood films on. I'm sure there's a technical aspect of what makes that a cinema camera. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess they're just getting closer and closer together, aren't they?
Yeah.
And so with that rig that you've built, and I noticed this on your A7S III rig as well, you're set up to shoot in that handheld, with the handle, that sort of style. Why do you like to shoot like that, and why would you do that over, let's say, a gimbal or a tripod or something?
Just because I feel like I can have more direct movements. For me, I prefer a handheld look because I can just point it exactly where I need to and use my body as the stabilization. I feel I can just be more accurate, and pull focus manually because it's all just like I've got full control. Whereas with a gimbal, I feel a bit disconnected sometimes. And it's great for a push-in shot or a follow shot, but a lot of the time, the in-body stabilization on the A7S III and the lenses and stuff, it's good enough that you don't need a gimbal unless you're needing a walking in shot that's going to be a 10-second shot. A lot of the cuts that I'll do will only be 2 to 3 seconds anyway before it goes to the next frame. So I think I can get away, and that's the thing, I've learned what I can get away with the setup that I have, right? So everyone will have different setups, and a lot of people, they'll start off with gimbal and just that's what they're probably more efficient and understand a gimbal a bit better than what I do anyway. So even on wedding days, I don't really use a gimbal because I feel like I'm just using my body. And again, like I don't want to have to rig and de-rig stuff, especially if you've only got one camera. Like, switching between stuff is always going to be a pain.
I like that you.
But yeah, I think the top down is the handle on the top also gives you. It's just ergonomically better to hold. Yeah.
Is using the weight of it to hold it steady almost, rather than trying to, fight gravity to hold it steady.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that you said, what was it? Well, you said you like the handheld look and you used your body as the stabilizer because in that way it wasn't just, I actually thought it was just going to be a convenience thing. And, I thought you might have said something like, oh, it's too much of a hassle to have all the accessories on the gimbal, or you have to rebalance it when you swap lenses or that sort of thing. But you actually said, no, it's like actually it's a style choice, and it's a preference of
Yeah.
how I want the footage to look rather than just a convenience thing, which I thought was quite cool.
Yeah.
And the last question I have about that is where are you shooting the footage to? Does it go to a hard drive, a memory card? How does that work?
Yeah, so that's the issue, because I don't shoot on a Atomos, whatever it is, Shogun or whatever. I'm not recording it to an external XT, and I never have, because purely the cost involved. It was a big outlay up front, to shoot to 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte SSDs on the back of the Atomos recorder. I know that you can shoot probably better bit rates and stuff like that through it, but I've never really needed that. So that is an issue at the moment. The Sony cards that these cameras take, the biggest card is 160 gig, and if you're shooting it at
is that SD or XQD or what?
No, they've just come up with a new memory card because they like to make things a little bit tougher. But anyway, so it's a CF Express Type A. So the Type B already existed, but for some reason they've created their own, and they're the only company that uses this Type A. I could be other way around, Type A or B, whatever it is, whatever one. Yeah, that already existed. They made a new one of it, so it's smaller, compact, but it shoots at it writes at 1,000 megabytes per second. So, for me, the very first wedding I shot with it, the memory card filled up, and I only had maybe one memory card at first, because they were the $600 memory cards. So I just bought one, and then I had my faster V90 SD card, but you can't shoot the full maximum of the camera unless you have these cards. So now I have 4 of them, which is great, but they do fill up fairly fast. So on a wedding day, the first one I shot, I was transferring every 2 hours back onto a hard drive. So again, that's time consuming, and you don't really want to be doing that on wedding days. So now we have 4 of them, and it gets me out of trouble, but I'm just waiting for Sony to release. I imagine it'll be the 320 or 240 gigabytes, just because I need more space, and I would rather buy them than have to buy an external monitor to record to that, just because I already have the Shinobis, which aren't recorders but just monitors. I just don't. Again, it's like you don't want to spend money until you need to. Because everything is already so costly, and it's that's the shit thing. Everything costs money. If I want to shoot, higher bit rate or better codec, you need to upgrade stuff, and it's like when stuff's already cost you your whole savings, you don't want to have to keep outlaying money just so you really need to try and justify how much better your footage is going to be. You know? And that's the issue. Like we all think the next piece of equipment or the better gear is gonna do a better job, but until you know how to use it, it's gonna be the same result, right?
And apart from that, there's always all these unsexy other auxiliary purchases that come with that new piece of gear. Like you think, what did the FX6 cost? That must have been $10,000 or something.
Yeah, exactly. So Cara was like, okay, how much is it going to cost? And I was like, this much. And then she said, okay, but how much is it going to cost? and then she was like, okay, I do need a cage, and I do need an SDI
batteries,
cable,
memory cards,
and I do need that. Yeah, exactly. Oh, actually, I need 2 more memory cards. So then, your $10,000 purchase ends up being 15 before you've turned it on. So it's the same as the Reds. Like the Reds, a Red Komodo, I think it's like $12,000. That's just the body. Like you don't get a cage, you don't get a handle, you don't get the battery for it. You
batteries,
don't get SD
hard
card.
drives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it sounds great. You paid $13,000 for this Red, which people like to rave on about, and then it's end up costing you 20 by the time you can turn it on. I think any camera you buy these days is going to do somewhat a decent job of video. Even the X100V, you know, I tried to do a little vlog thing on it. It didn't have any in-body stabilization or anything, but it's still recorded 4K in F-Log, and you know, the mic I had on it was still fine. So I think any camera, any new purchase in 2022 is going to give you something that you can record, you know, a decent video on. If not 4K, it'll, you know, do really good 1080.
Even, I'm not sure if you've heard of Cole Bennett. Lyrical Lemonade is his company, and he does a lot of the like rap videos for the, you know, the trendy young cool rappers. I don't know, maybe this was just for a few videos, but I could be wrong, but I think he shoots exclusively iPhone now.
Why not? Yeah.
He's like the top of, you know, he's basically, his videos, I'm not going to say that they were all like, it's not like they were all the craziest production value or the highest resolution or whatever, but in terms of like influential, like his videos, every single other person is copying his style, using his shots. You know, he changed the culture, and now he's just shooting on iPhones. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like you said, whatever you buy now, there's going to be a video option on it.
Yeah. And
the iPhones shoot ProRes, and they've got 4 lenses, and it's amazing. Yeah. Tool of the week. I think I could probably guess what your tool of the week is.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Well, it's not. It's more of the tool of the year for me. Yeah,
tool of the century.
Is my new video camera, I would say.
So if you want to pick up one of those, I'll link it on Amazon, and buy it through my link, and I'll get a nice little chunk of that. How about that?
Yeah, imagine the commission on that.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Sony FX6 for Kurt. Obviously, his new flavor of the month. For me, my tool of the week is not necessarily photography or video related, but at home we just got a couple of Sonos One speakers. The Sonos system is so good. I don't know. Have you ever used any Sonos products, Kurt?
I have, but the question is, why wouldn't you just get Google products? Because we just got some Google. I got a Google Home and then a Google Mini speaker or whatever, and I'm wrapped with that. So like, what made you choose Sonos?
Sonos will destroy the Google products in terms of sound. In fact, we actually chose the Sonos products that didn't have the voice assistant because we don't want microphones in all of them. You know, not because we're tinfoil conspiracy wearing whatever, but it's just like we don't use it. We don't need it. Like, we it's purely for the sound. So we've got one in the kitchen. We've got the bar and a television, and we have one in our room now. And to fill the house with the same music and to listen in stereo and to hear it all around you. It is like when I set it up last night and I just started to play a few songs and just like crank them up. It almost brought a tear to my eye how good it sounded. Like I didn't realize my house could sound that good. And the Sonos system is so easy to use. Anyone who comes into your house, anyone that's on your Wi-Fi can just select it in AirPlay and just play whatever they want. It's fantastic.
Purely based on user interface and audio, it would be the best system out there, I would say. And because it does, I guess, somehow, calculate your room size, everything, right? It's, they're pretty phenomenal.
When you set it up, you go through the app for all the setup, but then it turns on the microphone on your phone and you literally have to walk around the room for 45 seconds and you have to basically measure the whole room for audio while it's playing this sound, and it just sort of takes note of where the different surfaces are, and I don't know how, but supposedly it tunes the speaker to that specific place that you put it. I'm blown away. I absolutely love it. We've had the little bar on the television for a couple of years. Jem got it for me for my birthday a couple of years ago, and that is just so good. It's just the littlest one, the Beam, I think it is, and then we've just got a couple of Sonos Ones, which are just the small sort of like chunky ones, and they're great. Love them. Yeah, and that's it.
Man, I good audio is better than you realize. Like,
Oh
yeah,
man,
it's.
That-
I mean,
that's the other
especially
thing.
because we're musicians, right? Like, I'm like, good audio is better than good visual for me.
Like I said, it almost like I felt a bit emotional hearing music that beautifully, and that's the thing as well. We don't even realize, but in Spotify, we're only listening to MP3s.
I
Like,
know.
it's not even CD
Crappy
quality
audio.
like we used to get
No.
when we buy CDs. But yeah, I'm sure like in the next few years that'll all start to improve and iterate and whatever. But yeah, we're actually not listening to audio at even close to its full potential.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you again so much for sticking it out all the way. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you have made it to the end and haven't listened to part 1, go back and check that out. I think it's well worth it. And yeah, it'll make all this make so much more sense. Thank you again so much for watching. Leave us a like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you next time.